Inventory tends to be one of the more dynamic assets that a company may hold. If your company is involved in importing, buying and selling, or even simply consuming products as part of jobs or manufacture, then some people within your organisation will be spending a non-trivial amount of time in the inventory inquiries area. To navigate to that through Visage, you would start from the main menu into the inventory system, inquiries, and the area that we'll look at are these first 4 inquiries on the menu initially. That's an inventory inquiry, product availability, an assembly or kit inquiry, and also a parts cross-reference. Let's start off by doing an inventory inquiry, which would enable us to go and get some information about one particular product. In this case, if you know your product code, you could enter it straight in. But as usual in the inventory system or anywhere where you're asked for a product code, if you don't know the code, you may use the search function by either accessing the toolbar or also right-clicking on the field and selecting search. From the search screen itself, you have a number of criteria available. You can limit your search so you only show products that are available to sell right now. By default, the system will not show products that have been flagged as inactive. However, if you want to have a look at old catalogue items, you can tick this box to include inactive products on your search results. In terms of searching itself, you can put in part of a product code, any words or sequence of characters from a product description, or you can also access products that belong to a particular generic product. I just want to spend a little bit of time looking at putting in, say, a partial product code. If I enter in just RF in this field, and if I hit the search button to activate the search facility, the system will go out and search for every product that RF appears somewhere in the product code. You'll see on this first one, it's the second and third character. On the second product, it's the last 2 characters, and so on through the list. And in total, the system has found 100 products that have an RF in them somewhere. If you use a regular numbering system, it could be that you wanted to go and search for all products that began with RF. You don't care what comes after that in the sequence of characters that constitute the product number, but if you wanted to find all products that began with RF, you could put in RF followed by a right-hand square bracket. The right-hand square bracket is a wildcard that means you don't care what comes after that. If I hit my search screen now, the results will be refined so that now we only have 24 results. And you'll notice that all of these products begin with RF. If I was to reverse this criteria and put a left-handed angle bracket, which means I don't care what comes before this, and then put in an RF, that would indicate that we wanted to get all of the products that ended with RF. In other words, the last 2 or however many characters you enter in match what you've entered. So in this case I have 11 products that end with RF. As with all search screens, the more words that you put in here or the more search criteria, the smaller the number of results that you'll get back. So if I said I wanted to find all products that ended with RF but also had Ross in the description, repeat my search, I'm now down to a much smaller list of just 2 products. And if the product I'm after happens to be this RF product, simply select it from the list. I know I can select it because it has a red underscore on it. And if I click the red underscore from a search screen, that code will be taken back to the original program for me. You'll see that the system has come up with my prompt message. Would I like fries with that? This comes up even when you're doing inventory inquiries. It's what we called the sales promotional message. You may recall that that was set up when the product was originally established on the system, and it appears on the front screen of the product master file, so that whenever we reference this product throughout the system, whatever that message is will appear on the screen as a prompt to staff and salespeople. Never miss an opportunity for an add-on sales potential. The other question that we're asked on this front screen is which entity we're interested in looking at stock records for. The system has defaulted to the entity that I'm currently in. If you have a look at the top center of the screen, you'll see that I'm currently in my Newcastle test entity. I could go and have a look at another entity if I wanted to, but I'm happy with that. Let's look at what information has been returned on this first screen. The system has returned the product description for verification that this is the product I'm after, also the generic product, the entity that we're in. It's told me where my default bin location is for this product out in the warehouse, the last time I received it, the last time the product was sold, what my base or normal standard selling price is, the last time the product was consumed, and here's a situation where the product hasn't been through a stock take before. If it had been through a stock take, we'd see the date of the last stock take in here. We also see our standard cost, that's the cost taken directly from the product file, remember, that we established when we created the product initially. What the current average cost for this item is, that's a weighted average cost for this particular entity. If I called up this product and looked at a different entity, the average cost and standard costs may be different because the average cost is unique to each individual entity in the system based on products that have come in and gone out of that particular location. We also get to see the last cost for the product. In addition, over on the right, if there is an extended description been entered for the product, we'll see that. Beneath this, we have a table of the consumption of this product on average over the last 3, 6 and 12 months, which gives us an idea of how quickly moving this particular product is. This product is a little bit uninteresting from that perspective. If I call up another product that has some more consumption on it, we'll see, well, once more I get my little promotional message coming up, but we'll see that over the last 12 months, our average monthly consumption for this product has been increasing. 12 months ago, or over the last 12 months, we've been selling on average 17 of these a month. For the last 6 months, we've been selling 34 a month, and over the last 3 months, we're selling 67 a month. So this represents good growth for the product itself, and it's quickly available for display on the screen. This particular item is also stocked at multiple locations within the warehouse, and the system will show us what stock levels are at each individual location. Now you will only see this information if you're using the advanced warehousing system with RF units out in the warehouse and so forth. So it's quite possible that that field may be blank on your particular system. If we look at the main body of the screen, we'll see columns for the quantity of items that have been received, sold, the value of those sales, the tax component of the sales, the cost of sales, where we've actually sold product, quantities that have been consumed, and also the cost of that consumption. And that will be aggregated or totaled on a monthly basis. Here I've been extremely slack with my test data, but normally when you go through an end of period process in the inventory system, these figures would be accumulated for each month. You'll also notice on the bottom of the screen we have a quick picture of how many of these items we have in stock at this location at the moment, 112, how many are required, how many are allocated, what's currently expected, and what's currently available for sale. If we click on one of these fields, because you'll notice it is a red number with an underscore on it, so we know we can click on it. So if I was to click on quantity required, the system will show me whereabouts these 6 items are actually required. So in this case, I see that one is required for job 6606, another is required for job 6630, and 4 items are required for a customer order. So I can see exactly where that requirement is. If I click on the quantity allocated, I can see whereabouts the stock has actually been allocated in the system. Now this allocation could be in this, well, as it is here at the moment, it could be allocated out to orders, point of sale transactions, it could be on tally sheets, requisitions, anywhere where stock can be consumed could constitute part of the quantities for this allocation area. The quantity expected, if we click on that, will show us where these 86 items are coming in. Now I should also point out, as you may have noticed over on the left hand side of the screen, as I do each of these inquiries, as I've clicked on each of these numbers, my little accordion bang bar area here over on the left has come up and taken me into a new process, so I can see where I've actually jumped to by clicking on each of these numbers individually. But here we can see I've got a total of 14 primarily purchase orders for this product. So for each purchase order I can see the purchase order number, how many I expect in, the detail in this case would constitute the supplier that it was coming in for, and when these orders were actually raised, and obviously, or when the date was expected, sorry, and obviously with any of these, because they're a red underscore anywhere in the system, I can click that and I can go out to my purchase order in this case and see exactly where the products were coming in from, what else was coming in with them, and so forth. So as with all the inquiries in the Visage system, it's very easy to navigate between those. I should also point out the quantity in stock field, if you click on that, it will just take you back to the product inquiry again. If I click on it while I'm in the product inquiry itself, it will have a complaint and tell me that I'm already going to the current process, because obviously when I clicked on the quantity in stock, it took me to a process called INE prod, which is the same as the product or the inquiry I was in up here. If we have a look then at, say, the transaction page, I can see that I have a number of pages of information associated with my products here. So if I come across to the transaction page, I'll get to see the current transactions pertaining to this particular product. Here I'll see everything in terms of ins and outs. So I can see this product was sold through point of sale, it's had some stock adjustments, there were some invoices, there was a goods receipt, there was an invoice, the quantities involved in each of these, and obviously because each of these are underscored, I can click on one of these, like the invoice number 16549. So if I wanted to get details about that particular invoice, I can simply click on it and I'll be taken directly out to the process in question. So I get nice easy access to all the information I want. You'll notice also that the quantity fields here are also carrying an underscore on them. Now what this means in this case, if I was to click on one of these, and of course I've picked a transaction, or maybe I've picked a product that isn't batch controlled. Let me go and find a product that has batch numbers associated with it. I think I have a DJ assembly something or other. So another way of finding my product is to put in part of the product code and then use my move forward button to actually move forward through the products on the product master file, and conversely I could also move back by using the back arrow key, but I think it's this one. Yep, this one's got serial numbers associated with it. Normally I would know this or be aware of this, but if I click on this quantity of 10 here, for example, I'll get to see the actual serial numbers that were involved in this transaction. Now obviously that detail is only available if the product involved is tracked by batch lots or individual serial numbers. As we saw with the first product that I called up, or if I go back to my RF product screen, for products that don't have serial number control associated with them, clicking on that quantity does absolutely nothing. You'll also notice here on the transaction screen we get to see the dates of the transactions, the type of transaction involved, which you can read off there quite easily, their reference number, we've seen what happens if we click that, who, what, or whatever the transaction related to, the quantities, the cost, if it was a sales, the sale value, if it was taxed, the tax value, and also the tax rate associated with that particular transaction. As with other inquiries in the system, you can filter using the little table or area across here to the right of the display table. So if I was interested in seeing just say, let's say credit notes, what I could do using the buttons down in the bottom here, if I click the minus button, that will uncheck every box above here. If I click the plus button, that will go and check absolutely everything. If I was interested in credit notes, a way I could do this would be to uncheck credit notes, and this star button at the very first inverts all of my select boxes, or all the check boxes, so that when I click it, everything that was checked becomes unchecked, everything that was unchecked becomes checked. So I can flick between those quite easily. If I apply my filter, my display will now only show me credit notes that have processed through the system. Likewise, with my filtering, I can restrict my search to look at only products or transactions that were on or after a particular date, on or before a date, with a particular reference number, or also that related in terms of that from to, I could go and put, say, a customer code in, or a supplier code, depending on the transactions I was after. So if I put in RF here, we'll see that two criteria are being applied. I'm looking at only credit notes out to this particular supplier, this particular customer. A more common inquiry would be, once more, based on a customer, but they might want details of when they last purchased a particular product. So I could call the product up. In my filter area, say I'm only interested in invoice transactions, from or to, RF is my customer code. If I apply this filter now, I'll only see invoices for that particular customer. The historical transactions screen is pretty well identical. Of course, this particular product doesn't have any history associated with it, so I'll just call up another product so you can see it is pretty well identical. Exactly the same columns associated with it, exactly the same functionality in terms of being able to click on these transactions and also filter as well. If we go into the product details type area here, you may recall when you established the product initially, you had an option of entering some user-defined fields, which in turn you can access on the inventory inquiry, because that could contain very important information as far as you're concerned. I'll just call up another product here at the moment, RFA, and the reason I'm doing that is because the next screen I'm going to go to, my product notes, once more you have the ability of recording notes against your products, and they can be called up in this screen, and I just happen to know for the purpose of this demonstration that this particular product had some notes in here. And if it was a product that you were building, this would typically be build instructions for use in the Entally. If the product, I think I have some for this, if when you establish the product, it doesn't, you had images associated with the product, then you would also be able to see those pictures of the images here, and likewise if you had related documents, you would see what those documents were as well. If we come into, say, the where used page, what this will do, if we're talking about a component, it will show us whereabouts that particular component is used in other assemblies throughout the system. Now this RFA, which is itself an assembly, is actually used as part of that particular assembly there. If I did a slightly different inquiry, or the same inquiry but just call up a different product this time, one that I know is more widely used in terms of my test data, if I look at the where used map here, this particular product is used in lots of other assemblies and so forth throughout the system. Now the information you're shown here is whereabouts the product is actually used in terms of the product number, the description of that particular product, and also the explosion level. Now you notice most of these are an explosion level 1. What that indicates is that this RFB product or RFS and so forth actually refer directly to the RF product. If we have a look here at this, there is an explosion level number 2, which is directly under an explosion level number 1. And if you look at the description as well, you'll see it's offset by one character. It doesn't actually begin on the left-hand margin. And that's to give you a visual feel of what's going on here. Because visually what's happening is RF as a product code is actually a component in this RFA assembly. And RFA, if you have a good memory, if you wind the video back, or if you take my word for it, also happen to be a component in this DJ assembly 3. Now, because RF goes into an RFA, that's why we're seeing this as a level 2 explosion. And likewise, if you had products that are used in other products that are used in other products that are used in other products, you would see that explosion physically coming through there as well. The final button on the inquiry screen here is just the standard product locations directly from the product master file where this product is normally stocked. Now you'll notice there's a save button here. That's because you can actually maintain those locations from this inquiry screen. Because the inquiry screen itself may be used out in the warehouse. You are moving products around. Perhaps you want to record the fact that the product is now going to be stored in a new location, or that the reorder point is changing because of where it is, or the maximum stock level has changed. That information can be accessed from the product inquiry and updated. But whoever has access to this screen only can access and update the stock locations. No other information on the product itself is actually made available. That's most of a product inquiry type area. If we just escape out of here, or end out and come to the menu, one of the other items we have on the menu is a product availability. Now the product availability screen starts by asking us for a product code, and we've seen how we can go and search for that. I'll just put a product code directly in. It next asks us for a group code. Now this corresponds to an entity group. This entire inquiry, unless you have multiple locations, cost centers, divisions, warehouses, stocking locations, you wouldn't bother using it. But if you do have multiple locations, possibly spread around the country, where this product can be found, here you're nominating the code that corresponds to the group of stores, entities, locations that you want to go and have a look at. And of course the entity group that the system maintains automatically for you is the group called all. You need to hit the search button to get the system to go and actually do the search for you. It will then go out and inquire and bring the information back. So for every entity within our group that actually has stock of this product, we get to see what's currently in stock, current requirements, allocations, expected and available quantities. If we zoom in on one of these individual entities, I know I can zoom in because I'm in an inquiry. I have a red underscored field, so I know I can click on it and it's going to do something. And if we click on this, you'll see that we end up in our standard product inquiry screen. So if you will, zooming from the product availability just takes us into the ordinary product availability screen. While I'm here, I'll also show you, remember on the inquiry menu I said there were certain transaction types that we wouldn't look at directly. The reason for that is normally you would access those inquiries not directly from the menu, but it would be as a byproduct of doing an inquiry for a particular product. For example, if I use my filter area here, if I just have a look at manufacture transactions, and if I apply my filter, so here we have processes that have come through the Enquiries process. If I go and have a look at, say, or want to have a look at the details for this particular tally sheet that's come through, I can click on that, and here's the detail of the tally sheet. Here's the posting source it was on, here's where the stock physically went in the warehouse when it was finished, the components that we used, my build notes and so forth. And likewise for the other transactions that were there, I think there are requisition inquiries and so forth. If we pop out to the menu, we'll see what they were: tally sheets, stock adjustments, and requisitions, and so forth. So that normally you would be accessing those not from the inquiry screen menu itself, but rather as a byproduct of jumping through to it, drilling through to it, zooming to it, as a part of one of the other inventory inquiries. The next item on our agenda, so to speak, is the assembly and kit inquiry. This allows you to go and find out basically how much of a product you can make, or you could potentially make right now. So if I put in my assembly code product, bear in mind I can use all my searches and so forth, by default the system will go out and it will show me all the components that go to make up that product. Remember, when the product was established, I'll just go and show you on the maintenance area. If we go to the components screen, we listed all the products that were required to go and make one of these assembly items. So our assembly inquiry has simply listed these components, and for each of them it shows us what's in stock, what's required, allocated, expected, available, and also what our potential quantity is that we can make of this assembly that we're doing our inquiry on, based upon the current stock on hand. And if this was a sub-assembly type item, we'd get to see the parts that we could make an additional quantity of that. The interesting thing with this componentry that's shown here is probably the second last column, which is the potential column, because the components are sorted in order of this potential quantity, or in other words, the components are sorted so that whichever components are stopping us from producing more of the assembly we're interested in, being the product up here, they're going to come to the top of the list. For example, if someone was after 12 of these particular items, if I was to look at this screen as it stands, I could see that I could only make one. Now luckily I've got 144 in stock, but let's just say it said 0 in stock. Components are listed in production limiting factors first, so I can only provide one because I don't have enough of this RF type product. But if that's something I can get in overnight, I know that I can cast my eye down to this next row and potentially I can supply 19 of them if I get my purchase order in right now. And once more, if there were 20, 30, 50 components or whatever, the components are sorted in this inquiry by the rate limiting components that are stopping our production. The other field we can put in here is the quantity of components required that we're actually interested in making. So if we put in 12, we'll see that the quantity needed is automatically extended for us. If you aren't using tally sheets, you could go and export this information out to, say, an Excel spreadsheet. Can't see it, but my hard disk light is flashing now, and there's our data across in Excel, and we could go and print this or do whatever we wanted to with. But normally, and I would certainly hope that you'd use tally sheets for the production of any light assembly type items that you're actually making. So that's the assembly inquiry. And once more, we have our little zoom buttons down the bottom to see what and where products are actually coming in. We've got 2 expected, and that's actually coming in from a purchase order. A lot of people don't realise or recognise the fact that although you have a product that you manufacture internally, it's still possible, obviously, for you to go and purchase it as a finished goods from someone else if you needed to. The last inquiry that I thought we'd look at as part of this video is the parts cross-reference. The parts cross-reference, you'll recall, I'll just go to the maintenance process for this, allows you to go and maintain cross-references between your part numbers, parts that are on your inventory system, and OEM part numbers. For example, this OEM number down the bottom here isn't actually a product number in my system, but it is a genuine manufacturer's part number. So whenever someone comes in and they're after OEM part number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I know that I can sell them an RF product, or an SF1, or XYZ, or an SF1, and so forth here. You'll also note on the maintenance of that we had the two-way association, and that was because if the product we were interested in was, say, a 1-inch bolt in a particular application, we may be able to use a 1.5-inch bolt in that application as well, add some washers to it, and all's good. But it's never, or it isn't necessary that it's a two-way association, because if the bolt was used in assembly and there is a gap between each of the flanges of 1.25 inch, obviously you couldn't use a 1-inch bolt in that scenario. It physically won't bridge the gap. So depending on the application, it may be a one or two-way association. So if I did a search from here, a brand new search. The other thing I can do in terms of searching for this, someone may come in, they might have a badly scored product. Might be a drum, it could be a cylinder or a flange or something, and I can make out part of the part number. I can't see it all, but I can see a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here. The searching here is not searching our standard inventory database, by the way. It's searching our cross-reference database. But I can use the same wildcards that I used and showed in the early inventory searches. And once more, those wildcards can be used throughout the system. Not just in the inventory module, but if I put in the fact that I can see part of a part number, and that part number is 1, 2, 3, 4, and I don't know whether it's at the beginning, at the end, I know it's in there somewhere, and if I do a search, every possible alternative for that is going to, that we're aware of, is going to be displayed in my search screen. So if I select that from my search screen, or I might just, the other thing, although I have always said, hit the underscore. Obviously you can always do as I just did and highlight the field and bring it back to the program manually and just post it in, or paste it in. And once you call that product number up, you get to see all of the possible products that we can sell the person, or provide or use in that particular application. The critical thing here, I suppose two critical things, are those notes and comments that we entered up in initially, and also the level. The level indicates how close a match it is. A 0 is an exact match. This is the product that they're after, so we know they're after an OEM 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A first level match is an RF. Because remember, in our cross-references we said an RF was equivalent to this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We also said an RF was equivalent to an SF1. It's not directly linked, but it's a level 2 link and so forth. So this level column shows us how close a match the particular product is. The closer the match, the less problems we're likely to have. But even so, if it is a match, we also have these application notes, comments and so forth that will enable us to determine what additional stuff we may potentially need to use whenever we're substituting a product for this particular number. So the parts cross-reference, if you build it up, becomes an extremely valuable resource to the company itself, because it becomes your Bible. It becomes your reference to original part numbers, your part numbers, competitors' part numbers, all of that information cross-referenced. Now, in a nutshell, that's the inventory inquiries, and hopefully you've learned something. Thanks for joining.